Hey there, my empty nest friends. Have you ever thought, I've got an entrepreneurial itch and I'm ready to run with it? Today, you're in luck as I'm joined in studio by Leighton Hart. Leighton is the creator behind Leighton Writes. It's a fast growing social media presence. It's known for its humor, insight, and relatable take on midlife reinvention. Before he became a full time creator, where his creative spark that has resonated with, I think, more than 40 million video views. He spent 2 decades using his entrepreneurial background to build businesses. Leighton also serves as a content creator and marketing strategist for Turtleson. It's a national men's apparel brand, and that's where he and I connected. He helps them with storytelling, social strategy, and ambassador relationships. Now, we're going to get into all of that and more. Leighton's story is fantastic. Leighton, welcome to this Empty Nest Life.
Oh, Jay, thanks so much. It's really, really nice to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. We connected on Instagram. You reached out, and I think what intrigued me most about like connection was like, hey, we've got our fall PR package. I'd love to send it over to you. If you want to talk about it, great. If not, I won't fight you for it. I was like, oh, okay. I like the humor in that. So let's, and then we connected and yeah, back and forth there. And I was like, you know what? Leighton would be a fantastic person to have on the show because of your journey. I think you're in your second or third act. We've talked a little bit about that. But how did you even get started in being a content creator and the entrepreneurial spirit? Let's start there and see where this conversation takes us.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I've been thinking about this lately about where this urge to publish things or hit post or whatever, put things out into the world came from. And I can specifically remember when I was in high school, there was a guy from my high school had gone on and graduated high school, gotten into college, and then turned around and wrote a book about kind of a comedic book about, that transition into college. And I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world that you could make jokes in a book and publish that. And I don't think he didn't have a deal to write that book or anything. It was just a project that he did, but that was the little spark that said, "Hey, wait a minute. Maybe there's some avenue that I can put things down, make people smile, try to make people smile and laugh and put things into the world." And so from there, as soon as I got to college, I I volunteered for the school newspaper and I said, I want to do this. I'll write your stories about the building committee meeting and all that, all the places that you want to send me to write these more boring stories or dry stories, but in exchange, I want to be able to write something funny on the back page of the paper, just a little corner of the back page of the paper to write a little column. And lo and behold, they said yes. And so for 4 years in college, I had this gig, and this is way before social media, and we got the internet, if you will, like when I was in college. So this is way before all that, but for 4 years in college, I had a little corner of the back page that was all mine to make jokes and try to make people laugh. And so that was the start of my content creation career, if you will. Looks a lot different than it does today, but that was the start of it for sure.
Okay. So, well, yeah, we talk about, oh, it's fantastic we didn't have social media back in the day for lots of reasons. But
Yeah.
then also it's, oh, what if we had social media back in the day? Because of the opportunities now. You were telling me before you got involved with Turtleson because you just sent blank email and pitched them, and now you do content creation for them and brand ambassador for them. But like the gentleman you talked about who wrote the book, right? Going to college, he didn't have any avenue other than I wrote it and I put it out there. But now we have so much opportunity with the internet and with social media. I think folks who are maybe in their late 40s, early 50s, I had another guest on, we were talking about entrepreneurship is the fastest growing in like late 40s to mid 50s. And because the internet's here. So what are we going to do with it? What does that look like? And you've done some amazing things with it.
I Yes, and I've tried a lot of different things, and maybe if there has been anything that has paid off for me, it's the fact that I've been willing to try a lot of different things. The next iteration of that content creation thing was, I can remember in 2007, there was a thing called a blog that was starting to be popular, or maybe not popular, but in certain pockets, people were learning how to use this. It was this technology that was becoming available to regular people like us. And so my kids were very small, and I opened a free account on a site called Blogspot. You may remember it, Jay.
Oh, I do, yeah.
And so I started a little blog, and every day I just write a funny little story about something that my kids did. And they were so small, something funny that they did was, like, spitting up after it was that early, before they really had identities or anything like that, and so I could tell these funny stories about my kids, and then that sort of changed as they got older and as they became, you know, people with feelings and identities and all that. And I didn't feel like it was right to tell stories about my kids without their consent and all that. So when you're telling stories about babies and toddlers, it's a little bit different. So that changed. I blogged for a while and then retired from that from that because the circumstances changed. And then I had more corporate jobs where it's not like this as much anymore, but in the early days of publishing and content creation, all that, a corporate job and making content on the side were very much at odds because the
Oh,
company you work
absolutely.
for wanted to either know or be in control of what you said after work. And those things were at odds. So I figured it was smarter to continue to collect a paycheck and have health insurance while my kids were small than to have complete freedom of speech and in my content creation. So went quiet for a while. And then Facebook and Instagram came around, and it became really easy to snap a picture and put a funny caption and start to tell little stories or create a character or persona there. And I just fell in love with that.
Yeah. Has Leighton Writes always been your handle, or was there, like, a journey there with profile names?
Yeah, that was the first time and that account is probably about 3 years old. And that was the first time I really tried to do a public Instagram account, that because before then, I used Instagram like a lot of people use Instagram, which is perfectly fine, which is sharing pictures of my vacations and family, and here's Christmas dinner and all those things. But I didn't want that stuff to be public for the world. That's for a couple hundred people that I'm connected to, but there was also this other thing you could do on Instagram, which is create a public profile, and you're some people use that to make commentary about society, and some people use that to sell products, and some people use it to make other people laugh, and I wanted to take a run at having a public profile, and so Leighton Writes was a couple of things. Number 1, it was a handle that was available, which is
That's
we're running out of available handles.
you spend half an hour trying to find one that worked for you. Right.
And then also it was a mental cue for me because I wanted to resharpen this skill of writing, finding interesting ways to say things that may not be all that interesting. And so it was a challenge to myself to continue to write and test and publish as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, I think what I love most about your work there is, like, just the wit and the satire that comes along with it. It's every once in a while, I'm like, "Oh, that was really good." Right? You're like, "Ah, that made me think before I scroll past." So I love that about you. How did you parlay that into what you're doing now with Turtleson and the men's clothing brand?
Yeah. Great. Another great question. And it is all linked amazingly. So most of my career when kids were little and as they were growing up, and they're not all fully grown yet, but as they were little, as I was a financial planner in a corporate environment, and then at some point I went out and started my own business as a financial planner. And then there was a time where I had an opportunity to sell that business and really change the direction of my career and almost my identity at some point. And that was early 2000, as we were going into the pandemic. It wasn't related, but it just happened to be at the same time, and so went into the pandemic without this business that I had sold and had this opportunity to create this new role or identity or whatever, and I opened a podcast studio before everything shut down, an in-person podcast studio in our town where you could come in, sit down, record a podcast, and walk away. Tools like the technology we're using right now didn't exist yet, or it wasn't very good yet. So opened a podcast studio and did that. And then after a couple years, there was another kind of younger guy coming up in town who also wanted to be in the podcast space, and we had a great connection, and I was ready to try to do something else. So I sold the podcast business and client list to him, and I started publishing. I was fascinated with email newsletters, so I started publishing an email newsletter about golf apparel because I like apparel. I like to play golf, and so I started a newsletter about golf apparel. And then I discovered that there was in my backyard one of these companies that I would write little profiles about their products was in my backyard, 20 minutes up the road. And so that was Turtleson. And I didn't know anybody there, but I got on their contact form on their website and said, "Hey, I'm a guy who likes to write. I know how to do social media. I have experience with marketing. If that overlaps with what you need, let me know." Not pushy or anything like that. And they emailed me back the next day, and we've been connected ever since. So
Wow.
it's don't be afraid to
Yeah.
shoot your shot, I guess, is
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Don't be afraid to take the chance. Now, I bet there's some people who are listening like, "Oh, he had 2 businesses, he sold them both. He can just futz around on the internet." So, what would you say to that if somebody's who's listening who's having that thought?
Yeah, I would I would say, eh, don't selling a business doesn't automatically mean you're set for life is what I would what I would say. Uh, Definitely still have to work, and for financially and for sanity, it's good to to have things going on. So yeah, nice to be able to sell a couple businesses, and it gave a little bit of runway, but no, it's we are not set for life. I very much have to work, and that's motivation to keep uh, creating content and exploring new things and taking on responsibilities, all those things. So yes, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, I know my audience sometimes I'll be like, I'm afraid to do that, and I can't.
Oh,
I don't have these people have done this. They have money now. They can just do this. And as opposed to being like, no, that everybody who hops online as a content creator or an entrepreneur is taking a risk. Doesn't matter what's in their back pocket or not in their back pocket.
yes,
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So what keeps coming to mind for me is like the journey between like they're similar content creation, Leighton Writes, and what you do for Turtleson, but are they different in any way? Do you derive anything different from both of them, or do they feed off of each other in any way?
Definitely, the distinction I make in my mind is that in the world of marketing or branding, you have to embody a character or a set of attributes of the brand. And so what's on brand for my personal account, Leighton Writes, it's not going to always cross over with what's on brand for Turtleson. And so I have to keep in mind that what may seem funny or like it may go viral or might be successful for a company, if it's not on brand, it's probably not the right
Mm,
idea. You can get views for the sake of getting views and all that, but you end up, this sort of mission creep emerges, and then it's just this weird thing. So I always try to be careful to be mindful of what's on brand for the company, and then also what's on brand for my creator account over here too, which is funny to think about what's on brand for a person, but there's types of jokes that I will make and that I won't make, and there are just little bits or trends or whatever that I'll follow that in my personal account that yeah, just either feels like me or doesn't feel like me.
that makes perfect sense. And I could see where it drifts in a little bit, where kind of the humor and the fun of what you have in Leighton Writes does drift into Turtles. And I think there was a clip of you, and I don't know if it was an intern or somebody who was working, and you guys were like challenged to make boxes, like who could make
Right.
the boxes faster.
Yep.
I was like, okay, there's a little bit of humor in there. Like, how does
Yep.
that work? But also showing a great behind the scenes of what happens too is like, how does a company actually do these things?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I will say, and that I've learned, or that's some characteristic about me, is I find it very hard, or I don't have the ability to just say the thing. I have this thing where I have to find some other way, some creative way or alternative way to say the thing. So the example you're talking about for your audience, we had uh, we wanted to do some behind the scenes content and take people into our embroidery room and show how we fulfill orders. But it's one thing to just take the camera in there and carry it around and go, here's where this happens and this happens and this happens. And did you know we use a lot of boxes, and our orders come in these nice boxes and not just like a poly bag or whatever. You can just say that, or you can find a way to show people. And I would always prefer to find a way to show people that is entertaining, pulls them in, or puts some kind of different spin on the thing that I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And that's the I think for people who are listening, like, "Oh, I do wanna try to maybe do the content creator thing or be an entrepreneur or do things online." It's like, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, it has to be something that pulls people in. There's, like, a hook that keeps them looking because you have, like, maybe 2 seconds to have somebody stay and watch something that you've created. Yeah. D Is there a challenge between the 2? Is it, like, harder for you to do that in Turtleson than you do for Leighton Writes?
Yeah, because I always have in the back of my mind too that Turtleson or any other company that I engage with, it's not my company. There's a couple guys that own that company, and they put their blood, sweat, and tears, and that's their nest egg and their baby. And it's a lot of I always keep in mind that I don't want to screw anything up for for everybody else, because it is easy in the online space to do something that you think might be funny, and maybe it is funny, but we have we have a team of sales reps all over the world, and I don't want them to lose an account or get any friction because of something dumb that I said on the internet. And so, yes, for sure, for working for a company or for a brand, there's also just this kind of stewardship element of it too, that this is not mine. I have to take good care of it and not get anybody hurt in the process. Whereas for my account, I've got pretty thick skin on what happens in my comment section or whatever, or I'm not afraid to take a creative risk and, be a little weird or a little funny. So yes, it is different for sure, Jay.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too about the thick skin piece because people will come. If you build a brand and you have enough of a following, I guess people say you have a following, like, when people come after you, you have a big enough following, and
Right.
so that I had that happen to me, and the person was spot on, like, I did something that was this quick, and I thought it was gonna be great, and it was just not good. I just totally missed the point of what I was trying to create, and then I even tried to go back and forth to explain myself, which is, like, the worst thing you could possibly do ever, as opposed to just let it sit and move on, because the media cycle will move and somebody else will see it. God, that knocked me off my game for a little bit, but now it's just I had somebody my videos are all walking and talking, and somebody said, "I don't really care for the walk and talk." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So how do you deal with it with because you do humor. I don't, I don't try and be funny with my content, right? It's more value-based for people who are entering the empty nest, but how do you deal with that? Because you have a brand of humor that may not be everybody's brand of humor.
W- What I've always tried to do, and because I inherently don't enjoy conflict or stirring the pot or anything like that, it's I don't I'm a golden retriever personality. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to like me. I want everybody to like each other, all that stuff. I don't know where that falls on the Enneagram, but it's anyway. So I don't enjoy conflict. I don't enjoy people coming into my comments and stirring stuff up, but I do have perspective about I'll start here, is that I never I never take swings at anybody except myself or like an objective circumstance, like trying to find parking at the airport. I will take a swing at that and I'll make fun of
Sure.
that
Because
because
everybody has done that, more or
yeah,
less, has had that experience, yeah.
yeah, and nobody gets hurt. Like it's not nobody at the airport authority is gonna go home and lose a night of sleep because somebody on the internet made fun of, like, how confusing it is.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't take swings at people other than myself, and it's easy to cast myself as, like, the, the frustrated dad or the confused dad or the, "Why is this way?" kind of dad. So that's the first thing is I don't take swings at other people. The other thing that I am able to do that I have practiced is keep perspective on these are videos on the internet. And one debate that's raging right now is in my comment section is about a local colloquialism for a very specific part of a very specific state in the US, a phrase that is or is not used there, and people are losing their minds about this phrase. And it's just keeping the perspective of, guys, it's a video on the internet. It's not. This isn't like life commentary. It's not political. It's not. There's none of this matters, and so let's all just keep our perspective that none of this really matters.
yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, living in Carolina for a while, every once in a while, we might could my mic could slips out,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And now that I live in New England, people are like, "Mike could? What is that?"
I love that.
It's a turn of phrase that I learned when we lived in North Carolina. I might could do that. Or we might could do that.
I love that. That sounds perfectly natural to me. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're in Tennessee, then people probably use that turn of phrase as well.
yeah,
So, and you talked about being a dad, which is great. It's like a good entree into this empty nest life. You have 2 in college, 2 at home. So how much like, what's like, how much longer till you become an empty nester? What are the You got 2
yeah,
more left to go? Is it
yep. So
protracted?
yeah, no, we're the depending on how you want to look at it, the light is either at the end of the tunnel or the train is coming for us. However you want to look at it, but we're getting close. Our youngest is an 8th grader this year, so and high school goes fast.
Oh, it
So
goes so
believe me,
fast. Yeah.
we'll be there before we know it. But we definitely are in this strange spot where two are gone and they come home for breaks, and 2 are still here, and we are still very much in the thick of permission slips and field trips and,
Homework
tennis
and
practice and
yeah.
homework and yeah, all those things, so it's this weird place of, okay, rent is due on the off-campus apartment, and we're signing leases, and exams are coming up, and social dynamics of roommates and all that stuff, and also at the same time we have to have dinner on the table at 6 because dance practice is at 6:45 or whatever. It's we're in that in between place.
Yeah, you are an in-betweener for sure. What was your experience when the first one went off?
The first was very, very difficult for
Mm,
me. And so the birth order of our kids, it goes girl, boy, girl, boy. And so it's our oldest daughter, always been very close. And so this summer before she was set to leave was just I was in my feelings, as they say, a whole lot pre-morning, like her going off. But then moving her in, leaving campus, all that when you drop her off at campus was not difficult for me. It was
okay.
it was we're doing this. I'm excited. You're gonna fly. This is great. For my wife, she didn't grieve or mourn as much on the front end, but that process on campus and then driving away was the difficult part
What's the
for
difficult
her.
part? Yeah.
Yeah,
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 it's
yeah,
just
yeah. It's
interesting
almost
how
like you
everybody
left your baby someplace.
Yeah.
right? Even though
Yeah.
that's what we're supposed to do for sure.
Yep.
And I agree, like mine our son is our oldest, and so dropping him off was easy, especially because we got there and we're, like, starting to set up his room and we were like, "Where do you want this?" He's like, "I'm going to meet friends." And we were like, "How do you have friends? We've been here 5 minutes." Again, the internet. He's like, "I met them all on Discord. We're doing a meetup right now. You guys can go." It's like, Okay." Then my youngest is a daughter, and that was kinda like, "Ooh, yeah, dads and daughters, right?" Okay, this is a little bit more difficult for me
Mhm.
than the boy who's like, "See ya, I'm good."
Yeah. Sounds very familiar.
Yeah,
Very, very
100%,
familiar.
100%. What motivates you in life right now? You're in between where your kids are, you've got your own gig on Leighton Writes, plus you work for Turtleson, but what's your biggest motivator in life right
Wow. I think knowing how short life really
now? Mm,
is part of it, and not not fear's not the right word, but I don't wanna get to the end and not have tried something or taken a shot at something or chased every we talked before we hit record here about chasing your curiosity. I'm a very curious person and to try a lot of different things, and I think that's what motivates me is let's take this content creator thing for example is I think it's easy in life to go, oh, if I did that, I'd be successful at it. But the only reason I haven't been successful is because I haven't tried it and really given it my all. So with there's like this safety thing that
mm,
we do, like if I if I tried to be a really good professional golfer, I could totally be on tour, but then we don't put in the work and the practice and all that stuff. So I think it's a few examples. There are a few examples of that where it's I want to know if I really pour myself into this and work hard at making funny videos and reaching out to people and making connections, could I be successful at this at the level that at the level that I want to? And so there's probably several of those things that are still on my list that motivate me right now where I don't want to get to the end and go, "Oh, I wonder." Even if I fail, I just want to know.
you just
Like,
wanna know, "Alright, did I try?" What's one thing that you've always wanted to try, but you haven't yet?
mm, that's a great question. In and I don't know that I've ever told anybody this other than my wife. So you're getting
Breaking news.
breaking news here is that there's and I guess this makes sense with what I do now, but there's something about um, an old fashioned like men's retail apparel store, the old suit shop that's in a college town or
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm.
where get dress the fraternity guys for their formals and sell dress shirts to the businessmen and all that kind of small town men's store where they know everybody and make sure everybody's well dressed. Like that to me, if I get to the end of my life and haven't tried some kind of
Something like
opening a
that.
retail experience, I think I'd be sad.
Okay,
That being
alright.
said, I have no plans to do that right now, but but who knows?
Yeah, note to self and anybody who's Turtleson is listening, he's not trying to leave and
Yeah,
bolt and start his own thing, he's very happy.
absolutely. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and welcome to this empty nest life where we ask the hard questions and make people think, and they're like, "Oh, here's something I haven't shared with anyone before." Yeah,
That's
they're like hard charging news here
right,
on
you
this empty
snuck
nest
that
life.
out of me.
I love that though, because that's gone away. The dress for success or dress even just to be like I notice it for myself. Like I dress when I fly,
Yeah. Mhm.
and I notice nobody really dresses to fly anymore. I show up looking nice. And there's something about it. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. Or going out to dinner, right? I want to look nice. But I would be there. If you start a small town retail, like men's suit shop that catered, I'd come visit.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I do think that the trouble with that is there's like this thing or this trope that men don't like to shop, which I don't necessarily believe. I think Yeah, I just don't necessarily some men don't. I just don't think you can make generalizations like about
Absolutely.
an entire gender of people. There We had a Christmas party here over the weekend, and I was looking for something fun or different to wear to a Christmas party. It's the holidays. Let's have some fun. And we live in a not a small town, but not a big city. It's big enough that there should be choices and options available for everyone, and there just aren't here. And so that sort of plays in the back of my mind of there are guys that want to come in and talk about I've got this event coming up or a job interview or whatever, or these old pants that I have are getting worn out. What do you recommend? Um, I still think there's a place for that in every town.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. We might be the only two, but it's a
Right.
start. It's a start for sure. Okay, so the retail shop is something you've never tried before that you're interested in doing. I love that. That's an interesting concept for sure. Okay. What's one thing that you've done that you'd love to do over again?
Mm. Oh, wow. Wow. Man, that's really great. I think, Jay, I have you've seen the cartoon of like the guy who's like digging a tunnel and he's like digging, digging, digging. He's got a little light on at his pick in his tunnel. He's making progress. And then there's this much wall left before there's like the pot of gold and all that stuff. It's just you were so close. You just quit just a little bit too soon. And so I think in a lot of creative projects or even, jobs that I've had, I've probably pulled the plug and gone somewhere else or done something different just a little too soon. And so I think back and not with the regret. It's just I was doing the best I could at the time with the information I had. But I do think if I had just picked one thing and just gone really hard and consistent and stayed with it for the long haul, um, I think that would have compounded into whatever success means for that project.
Right. Yeah, and I think creative types fall into that, right? Because in order to do that, you have to be disciplined, and discipline is boring. Right? It's literally like
It
on
is.
repeat, doing the same things every day over and over and over and over again. And creative types, I tend to be more creative. I know I have ADD, so it's like I get to a certain point and I'm like, man, time to pivot into something that like draws my attention more.
Okay, I'm glad you know exactly what I'm talking about then, and
Yeah.
that's the exact urge that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Just the, well,
Exactly.
this isn't super stimulating anymore, so
Yeah.
let's
That's
move
what my
on.
coach tells me all the time is discipline's boring. You gotta keep going. You're like, I have a client who tells me, "I'm so glad I worked with you before you become super famous, and I couldn't afford to work with you anymore." And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" But people see it, I guess, right, in other people. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what you do is so amazing. I could never do that." But that's not true. Going back to what we're point about is like, you gotta try.
Yeah.
If people
Yes,
have an itch, you gotta try.
and what an interesting comment for you too that this person is saying this, and to you, it's just, "This is just what I do. This is I'm this is easy for me. I don't know," you know? So, yeah, I think there's this thing sometimes we don't know exactly how naturally what we do comes to us or how good we are at what we do until somebody else tells you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Before I let you go, I had a great conversation. You're like on act one, two, three. Maybe this is three, maybe four. What's one thing you've learned about yourself through this journey?
Interesting. Uh, I think, and this is a good thing. I think the visual I have for this is almost of a sculptor. There's
Mm,
some story about somebody asked about carving the statue David. How did you do that? And the sculptor said, I just carved away everything that wasn't
that wasn't
David.
David. Yeah.
And I feel like that's the learning process that my career, all these seasons have been is I figured out. what is me and what's not me. And so I've had roles where I supervise people and that's not me. I'm not those aren't the skills I have. Even if I aspire to that, that's not what I'm good at. I'm good at some other things, but I'm not good there. So it's this little piece of, okay, that part's not me, but this part is. And so all these creative projects, jobs, and parenting for sure, volunteer experiences, all that has helped me see what what's not me so that I can really appreciate and lean into the stuff that is.
Yeah, what's not me? That's great. Just lean into that, and I think that's for many people, that's where this journey of empty nesting comes into. Is like you dedicated so much to being a parent, and now that the kids are out discovering who they are, it's maybe time to discover who you are or to rediscover who you are. So I appreciate that. That was a great way to wrap the show up. Folks, go check him out. Leighton Hart. He's Leighton Writes on Instagram. If you have a man in your life that you're looking to shop for something, Turtleson, check them out. Golf apparel. I don't golf anymore. I spend 4 hours getting lost in the woods hiking now instead of playing golf. And I don't have to pay for it, but the apparel is fantastic. I swear by it. So check them out. Leighton, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate it so much. Thanks, Jay.